Happy New Year, YouTube. I had a baby. And in this vlog, I'm going to tell you all about my birth story. So it's the first week of January. We are back in Tennessee. This is our cabin. Kai is romping around doing stuff, so you'll hear, hi, are you talking? You want to be on my YouTube? As I was thinking about 2026 and vlogging and everything that I want to share with you guys, obviously, we signed with the Blue Jays. We're moving to Toronto. Cody ended up winning MVP of the whole KBO, which was crazy. We've already done an international move with an infant. But as I was thinking about this first video that I wanted to share, I wanted to talk about the biggest and coolest thing that I did, which was give birth. And so in this vlog, this episode is all about my birth vlog and my experience telling it. So we have this intro part that I'm filming right now because I filmed another part like the day we're checking out of the hospital, but I got cut off because we were leaving. I thought I'd have more time and we're leaving and checking out. And so I didn't actually ever finish it. And so this is about 8.5 weeks later that I'm filming this. But I just went back and listened to that first part and it was really incredible. I'm talking all about you. Yes, I love you. And I just wanted to finish sharing my story because, like I said, this was the coolest thing that I did all year. And pregnancy was such a huge part of my YouTube journey and sharing all of that with you guys. And so I just, what better way to start the new year than by celebrating you? And yeah, so let's get right into it. So this next part you'll see is like I'm 2 days after giving birth and I have lots of thoughts. You'll see. Okay, let's get into it. Hi, everyone. We are checking out of our hotel room. Cody and Juhi just went. They're going to do some signatures and photos for the staff, just saying thank you and all the things. I wanted to record some thoughts before I forget it. So October 23rd was my original due date. And at 42 or 41 weeks and 6 days, so 1 day away from 42 weeks, it was November 5th, which was the peak of the pink supermoon in Taurus. And I had started feeling like Braxton Hicks contractions, but nothing really serious, nothing that was getting me to stop. And so my doula kept telling me the way you'll know it's contractions versus Braxton Hicks is like it'll stop you in your tracks. And I hadn't felt anything like that. And so I was starting to get a little nervous just because there's so many, like, you're not supposed to go over 42 weeks. And I guess in Korea, it's actually like 38 weeks is full term, but they just they knew that in America we do 40. And so they were a little bit more open to it and very grateful for my doctor and just him giving me the space to trust my body. But anyway, so we go in for my appointment. They're telling us that Rue is measuring 8.5 pounds. And they're like, this is going to be just, she's just going to be bigger. So if you want to do a natural birth, like you still can, but it's just going to be harder. So like, just so you know, which they kind of have to say. And so we're going through and doing the appointment and he's kind of like, okay, so we need to induce you tomorrow. And like the one thing that I really didn't want to do, and I'm sure that I've made this very clear, is I didn't want to do a medical induction because once you get Pitocin in your system, it just ramps up the contractions and it's like forcing your body into labor, whether you're ready or not. And so like your body, there's so many magical and just wise things that happen that your body will start to do on its own, like rotating the baby and dropping her head down, and like your muscles will start to relax and your hormones start to release. And so there's all these different things that happen and like in this perfect sequence. However, a a lot of times we just like don't get the space to let our bodies do that. And so, yeah, and then whatever. I have many thoughts about this, but anyway, so my doctor was like, it is like pretty unheard of in Korea for you to go over 42 weeks. And he's like, I'm trusting you because like you are like, you've had a totally normal pregnancy. We've had no scares or anything. You've been super healthy. Like your body still looks good. You look really good. You're feeling good. He's like, I'm trusting you, but like, you have to know, like there are risks. And you know, like just as a first time mom, that's scary. And it's not something that you really want to hear ever. But it's the truth, you know, that's the truth. And she's napping. That's just how it is. And so anyway, so we do that and I'm like, and the whole time I'm thinking I'm like going to be this unicorn person who is, I'm like one of those people who is already like 4 centimeters dilated. They're going to go and check me and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you should totally stay. Like you're going to have the baby in like 5 hours. So we do a sonogram or an internal sonogram. I don't know what it's called, but either way, a vaginal examination to check my cervix. And she is as thick and as deep as like full, so exactly what we didn't want. But what it was telling me was like, my body is not quite ready. And that was confusing because I was like, okay, if I'm having this 8.5 pound baby, like, oh my gosh, like how much bigger is she going to get? And the real reason another reason I didn't want to induce is because the last thing for your baby to develop is their lungs. And so if you induce and you kick them out early, their lungs aren't always developed. And so babies have to be in the NICU and they have to monitor their lung growth and everything. And so I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to give her the space to be strong and healthy on her own. So after that, I was like, the next option, which I've talked about, was for me and kind of like my birth plan and like what I wanted to do with my options was to do a cervix massage and to kind of get that checked. And so after seeing that my cervix was still strong and in charge, just fully intact, I was like, let's do the cervical massage. And it's like a membrane suite. They're kind of the same thing, but let's do that, see if it helps, kind of get things going. I've had so many friends who have done like 3 of them and it never worked. Where on the other hand, I've had a friend who's like done 1 at 38 weeks and it's like totally gotten going. So it definitely just depends. But either way, we go up and do it. And it was uncomfortable, but it only lasted like 2 minutes. And so it really wasn't, in my mind, I was like, okay, it's going to be a massage. So like it could be, I'm thinking like physical therapy, like it could be like a 20-minute treatment. It was like 2 minutes. And so I was like, I was about to be like, get back up in there. Like, come on, let's get this going. You know, if we're going to do it, let's do it. So either way, we did that. And then they were like, you can take you have to come back on the 7th and let us know what's happening. So that was the 5th. So they're like, you can have 48 hours and then you got to come back. And then we got to talk about other options. Like, we'll check you out, but we got to talk about other options. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I go home that night. I'm starting to feel crampy. I'm starting to feel some sensations. And but it wasn't, once again, it wasn't anything crazy. And the big thing that had been happening to me is they would pick up kind of the day before and then they'd stop. I'd feel some things during the night and then in the morning I wouldn't have anything. And I'd been having my bloody show at that point for like a little bit of blood, but not a lot. And it was still like very light pink. So, hi baby. Oh. So cute. Okay. So I was feeling hopeful, but I was also, honestly, I was like, the 11/5 date was like so cool because it was the supermoon, like 11/5/2025. I was like, that's just such a cool number. I was visualizing her like running around in a little soccer jersey wearing number 5. And so I could just like see it. I was like, this is going to be it. And then I'm going to bed and I'm like, I'm not having contractions. It's like 8 o'clock at night. We're definitely not having a baby tonight. So, and I'm like such a numbers person. So if you guys are on Hidden Pearls with me, you know that. But I'm such a numbers person. And so then the next morning at like 2 a.m., I start getting these I am woken up to this like huge, like big wavy sensation, like, whoa. And so I was like, okay, that was different. So I have an app that tracks contractions. And so I was like, I'm just going to start, or I was actually playing with it the night before. So I was like, I had it up. I was like, I'm just going to start tracking these because that was the biggest sensation I've had yet. So I clicked it. And so I'm starting to time it. And then like they're like 10 to 12 minutes apart. And then like they just kind of keep coming. And so I'm like in bed for about 40 minutes. And then I'm like, I cannot lay down anymore. Like it's really painful. And then I'm also kind of like, ooh, okay, that was my first hour of contractions, right? And so they were about a minute long, but they were like 12 minutes apart. We would come to the hospital when they're closer to 5 minutes apart instead of 12. So I was like, okay, I know I have a long way to go, but still like something's happening. So I was kind of awake. Cody was asleep, but I was awake kind of in our bathroom for about an hour. And then I was just too excited. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to wake up. I know my mom's going to be awake. She's like still super jet lagged. And so I kind of went over to her room at like 3, and she's such a light sleeper. So I opened the door and she's like, I'm awake. What's happening? And I was like, yeah, I'm getting contractions. So then we kind of hung out for an hour, and then my dad and Kai woke up because Kai's been staying in my dad's room just to keep all of our sheets and everything fresh for baby, and so there's not any dust. Or hair and stuff. And so he comes out, and then we're all kind of hanging out, and, we're talking, and it's fun. And then, around 5:30, I go and wake Cody up. And then like everyone's awake, and we like had some breakfast, and the whole time I was eating, drinking, peeing. That's the things you want to keep remembering. 'Cause it's like the craziest workout of your life. And so you have to have nutrients and sustenance, but you also have to keep peeing which this really, like, I go to the bathroom all the time, but I could not pee at the end of labor, and it hurt so bad because all the pressure was on my bladder. But it keeps you from being able to push because there's so much extra pain. And so I think there's something else that it does too, but either way, that hurt really bad. So the peeing part is really important. And so like anytime I had to pee, I would get up and go to the bathroom, but it was like, I'd have a contraction, and then I would, and then I'd go to the bathroom, and then it's like when I'd sit down, and I think just like gravity and just kind of like relaxing, it was like a whole nother wave of a contraction. So it was really hard for me to exactly know when to time my contractions. And I think there was like a lot of user error around that because, I think I could have come into the hospital sooner, but I was doing the best that I could with my app, but it was just like my contractions were like waving like into the next one. And so it'd be like big peak. And then sometimes there'd be like a long rest, and then they'd go back up. And sometimes it was just like peak, and then it'd go down. And so it was just really inconsistent for me. And so the doctor was saying, you want to wait until they start to get a little bit more consistent to come in. So either way, so Cody's awake, and then Juhi comes around like 2-ish, or maybe, no, it's closer to like noon or 1, something like that. And then we have these people who have to come and fix a gas sensor in our apartment. That's a whole nother thing. So I'm in our bedroom, and I'm like laboring. Well, not in active labor, but I'm in pre-labor. But I took a lot of videos. Well, not a ton of videos, but the big thing that was helping me is because it just like felt like I really wanted to hunch forward and like extension, like hip extension. And so really arching my back and like coming up. And so that's what I kept telling Cody. I was like, remind me to stay tall, like to find my length, like to stretch out. And that was like the biggest thing for me because the contraction like bears down, and I was like pushing up against the wall, and I was like, I need to like find space and extend. And that was my biggest thing. And so I would like take different lunge stance with my arms against the wall. And then I've watched so many videos of partners being, people saying my partner helped, or my husband was like the greatest asset to my entire labor. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm sure, but like, I don't know, like how much is Cody really going to be able to do? Oh my gosh, the counter pressure was incredible and so helpful. And also just like trigger point stuff that he was doing. I felt, you guys, I have the coolest husband in the world. I'm just like, Cody's true calling is not baseball, it's being a doula, because he was the birth coach of my fantasies. He was just so incredible. And I think that's like a whole different vlog. And I can't even like talk about that because it made me so emotional. Because it was just so like the way he was just like so in sync with me. And everything I needed was just like, I think that's why labor went so fast for me. Well, it was like 18 hours, but like once we really got into it and got at the hospital, because I just had him, like, he was just like this bubble around me, and like anything I needed, he could just, like, I didn't have to ask for anything. Or I didn't feel any way about asking. So it was just so wonderful. So then we, okay, yeah, so I'm laboring. We're getting this like gas sensor fixed. Poor Kai, he's like, he can tell something's like really wrong with me. He's like, Mom, there's literally something inside of you. He just kept coming up and like staring at my stomach and then like sniffing me and being like, there's something going on with you, Mom. Like, you got to get this out of you. Our poor dog. And then my parents were there, and then there's fucking all these Korean guys like working in it was just like a really not peaceful situation. But anyway, they ended up leaving. By the time they left, I was like, it was about 2:30, and I was like, okay, I want to go to the hospital because I didn't want to get stuck in traffic. I didn't want to I just didn't want to slow down. And so I was like, I'd rather get here. Like, my contractions haven't slowed down once, so I think I can stay in that. So we get in the car, we're moving by 3 o'clock. It's about a 35-minute drive to the hospital. I have 5 contractions on the way here. Like, they are coming in hot. Those were really not fun. And I knew that the longer I waited, the less fun it was going to be. And so I was like, let's just get there and go. So anyway, we did that. Then we ended up getting here. We did our COVID test. We checked in. We got into our room, which was like so incredible. And so then, in that time, I'm like, different location. I'm like, I'm feeling good. So I'm like still having the contractions, but we put the music on. I had the best birth playlist. I had like 3 that I was rotating between all day. It was perfect. It was perfect. I should put my birth playlist together. It was like the most fun music. But it was like these different stages of transition for me. So that was really, really helpful. So we get here, the birth tub's already blown up. Everything's kind of set up in our room, and so then my midwife came in, absolute angel. She came in and she checked me. So she did a cervical check, very painful. I didn't love those. And my doula warned me about that. That the cervical checks are going to be like painful and kind of pull you out of it in a way. However, I wasn't having a home birth. I was having a hospital birth. And so I didn't want to refuse or like be too stubborn because they literally went so above and beyond for me and Cody. And so I just was like, okay, I was just like, whatever, let's do it. I'm not arguing. I was just going with the flow. I think Cody and Jew here almost back. But either way, so we got here at like 3:30 and I was at 4 centimeters dilated. I think I was saying 5 if you watch my other birth vlog that we're going to do. But we were definitely at 4. I was wrong. So we were at 4 when we got here. Then we're kind of like laboring, dancing around. And we did that until about 6. And the sounds that I was making, I sounded like a banshee. That sounded like a wild animal. But like the vibrations, the sound, like releasing it, like I was reading so much about like how your jaw is connected to your diaphragm, which is your pelvic floor. And so like the 3 of them are all linked. And it was just like breathing to your diaphragm, releasing through the sound of your jaw, and then like feeling it in my pelvic floor. It all just was like so healing. It just felt so good to do all those things together. Like while I was contracting, it was like relaxing it. And so my doula came in at like 6:30 and was like, okay, I'm going to check you. Like you're making some you're making some really big sounds. I want to make sure you're okay. And so I was at 7 centimeters and she's like, all right, let's start filling up the tub. Or she's like, you can get in the tub in an hour. And I was like, I'm filling it up right now. Like, I want to get in the water. So while we were filling it up, I actually took a shower and that was heaven. Oh my gosh, that felt so good. So that felt really, really incredible. By this point, my contractions are like really just like rolling together. And I was kind of getting a break, but not really. And especially since like standing was the only position that I was finding relief in, my legs were getting really, really tired. Because at this point, like I started at 2, my entire labor was about 18 hours. But yeah, so then we got to 7 centimeters and we started filling up the tub. I got in the shower and I was just like tired, but like really excited, you know, that we were at 7. So we fill up the tub. It couldn't be too warm or anything because it had to, because of her amniotic sac, and like the fluid has to be, like your tub has to be like a certain temperature so it's not too intense for her. She's perfect. Either way, we get into the tub around 7-ish. And everything after that, I feel like just started to move a lot quicker. The water was so wonderful, like soothing on everything down here. But the other really nice thing about it was like I was saying, my legs were really tired. I was just really tired. And so the water helped to hold me in a way, you know, like just the gravity and the weight of my body. And so the water just took the weight off my body. And so it just was like such a relief for my legs. And then I felt like my hips could relax more, you know, because the mantras that I was using is every contraction, like my body, oh my gosh, I can't even remember now. They were so intense for me at the time, but it was like use the contractions, like work with the contractions, don't fight against the contractions. And so everything that I was thinking about was like breathing into the contractions to release and open. And I was really trying to be intentional about not pushing or like forcing the push, because my body, like if I got to the point where it was really ready, like fetal ejection syndrome, where like your body will push the baby out itself, which mine started to do at the very end, which was incredible. But I was like, I don't need to push, or like I don't need to force anything. Like my body is doing it, like doing all the work for me. And so I just need to surrender. Like I need to just open up and go with the flow. And that was really hard to do. And honestly, at about like getting around that point, like that's when I started being like, what the F was I thinking? Why did I want to do a natural birth? Like, what the fuck? Okay, I'll finish this one. Okay, so as I was listening to that, I realized, I feel like there's a couple numbers that were a little bit off, which granted I just gave birth, so bless that version of myself. It's fine, numbers are fine. But like I was saying, I was laboring for about like 3 to 4 hours. And then I went from 4 to 7 centimeters. And that's about when she was like, you can get into the tub. And so she was like, we're gonna have to wait an hour. And I was like, Cody, I need you to go fill up that tub right now. So he went over, he starts filling it up. And as the tub's filling, like the contractions are still getting bigger. And I think then it's like I know that relief is coming. And so I just remember the anticipation for that was getting pretty big. This is so cute. But in those moments, like my doula was saying that birth can be a really psychedelic journey. And I have gone on journeys with ayahuasca. I've done mushrooms. I really believe in plant medicine for healing and for therapeutic purposes. And so I've worked with those different medicines. And as I was in kind of like this stage, like right before the tub, that's when things started feeling a little bit more psychedelic for me, where I started kind of zoning out and being like, whoa, like almost kind of seeing things. And yes, I think it was the exhaustion. Yes, I think it was the pain. But I think there's also this like deeper part of you that taps into something really spiritual. And especially like I got to labor at home all day with my people, like with my mom and my dad and Cody and Kai. Like Kai's a huge part of our life, my wolf. And so I got to labor at home, and that all felt super ceremonial and medicinal, and just like being with my family that way. And I realized I meant to say this before, but the thing that helped me, like when all those people were working at our house, and when it like all of a sudden it went from like not being a very peaceful situation, the way that your body, like melatonin is a huge factor in sending your body into labor. And so your body produces it naturally when you go to sleep or when it's dark. And so I kept our bedroom really, really dark, and I didn't really venture out into light very much because I didn't want it to shift my hormones at all or like the production. Hi, baby. But I just didn't want it to change or like slow down my contractions. And so like staying in the dark and keeping the blinds pulled is a really great way for you to keep contractions rolling, like keeping the environment dark, even if it's not dark outside. So, okay, anyway, so we finally get in the tub. It felt amazing. Like my body just felt so tired. Like labor for me was super active, and being on my feet and like leaning on the wall, and I was doing like standing cat cows all the time, and then kind of stretching, and everything felt so active, and like I was participating in the whole process, which was really, really cool, but it was really exhausting. So I remember getting in the tub and just feeling like I was being held in such a different way. And I think also like, yeah. And I felt also like, she's getting lower. And so my tissue's starting to get stretched out more. And it's like the water just felt so soothing. And, thinking about how baby was in water, and it's like, there's so many like water elements, and especially because she's a little Scorpio. So there was a lot of water elements like moving around me and like my emotions. And so I just felt like, number one, my my skin started to soften in a different way. And then my muscles started to relax even more. Like think of when you get into a hot tub, like it's just, you just feel space and like there's less pressure on your joints. And so the things that had been bothering me, like you have relief from that. And so, you just get relief from it. And so that's really how it felt. And I was still kind of like on my knees, and like my elbows were up on the birth tub. We got our birth tub. It was, we got it off of Amazon, but it was an American birth tub that we had shipped to Korea because I was too big for the other bathtubs. And it was like a hard bathtub, and like looking back on it, that would have been like not very comfortable. Like it was really wonderful that the tub was so soft. It felt like so squishy and like comfortable. Rattle life. But so I'm in the tub maybe like an hour, and then our midwife came back in and was like, it's time, like I want to do a cervix check on you. So I ended up getting out, and like I shared in the part before this, I think the cervix checks like mid labor, like those were pretty uncomfortable. But she checked me and she's like, yeah, you're at 10 centimeters. Like it's time to, and the thing is, like I was presenting like I was exhausted. I was really tired, but I had trained for this. And I think that, when you watch someone go through like a really hard experience, you're kind of like, okay, do you need to rest? Do you need to rest? And like, I just needed to keep going. And so at this point, my doula was like, I want you to just lie down on your side and rest. Oh my God. That was like, I remember like screaming. It was so painful because I think I don't know what that position, like why it was so painful for me, but laying on my side hurt so bad. Yeah, you remember? It was terrible. That, like, I remember having Cody. Oh, come here. 1 second. I'm nursing while I tell you guys this story. So laying on my side was super painful, that I remember laying down and then being like, Cody, get me out of this position. And so he kind of pulled me up, and she's like, I just want you to rest for 15 minutes. Granted, like she knows, I'm about to, like I'm 10 centimeters, the baby's going to come. I think in that point, like what I'm so proud of us is that like Cody and I were such, do you see what he's chewing on? It's a piece of firewood. He waits until I'm like pinned down with her. And then it's okay, it's fine. That's Kai. Oh, Kai also got neutered. It's been a year for the Ponces. Yeah, strong start to the year, buddy. We're not giving him a hard time. He's going through it. Okay, anyway, so I'm feeling very proud. Like when I look back on this in hindsight, like, yes, that was really painful. And I wish that I would have said, like asked to not get out of the tub, but I did. And then like I was in pain. And I think the thing that I just remember is like, I just felt like Cody and I did such a great job advocating for ourselves, or like him advocating for me, and like me being really vocal about what I need, and then him supporting me. And so there was just like such a like open lane of communication between us. Open lane. But there was this beautiful open lane of communication. And so it wasn't like, I didn't feel like I could stick up for myself or I could say how I really felt. And I think also the fact that our midwife spoke a little bit of English, but not a ton, like it wasn't like a fluent conversation. And so we were having to like figure out how to negotiate and like, or communicate. And yes, we did have a translator there, but at the same time, it was just like, I don't know, either way. So the fact that we got through that, but either way, we told her, I was like, I have to get back into the tub. Like everything is getting way more intense. Now, the big two things that I'm remembering that I learned from social media and watching vlogs, and so I want to reiterate them here, but the first is pushing. All right. In my head, when I was thinking about birth, like even though I have like had all these birth conversations and I've talked to other people and I've heard all these stories and I've watched their vlogs, like in my head, when I was still thinking about birth, it was like you get to this point and then you have to push and like you push the baby out, and it's very like you choose like I'm ready now to push, or like the doctors will tell you like, okay, it's time to push. Granted, I didn't know exactly what that meant, but what I have come to learn and realize is like, you don't really have to push. And especially with like, I mean, this is my experience from unmedicated natural labor. But I didn't have to push. And there wasn't a doctor there telling me like, okay, Emma, it's time to push, and like laying on my back with like my feet in the stirrup and pushing. Like that was not my experience at all. My body was ready to push, and all I was really trying to do is instead of like, cause like I said, I was really tired at this point. And so instead of like push or like making it really active that way, like it was never like that. I just kept remembering like just surrender and open, and like the contractions within me, they were doing everything. Like my body was doing everything. I really believe that if I started to push and engage, which I'll get to in a sec, but if I hadn't been doing that, like she would have still come out. Like that baby's coming out. So that's pretty amazing. But I think just for any new moms or like people who like, if you're going, through the process of childbirth, like I didn't have to push. Like I started and I wanted to, but there's not like, you'll know, like it's a really physical sensation of when your body is like ready to push the baby out, and then you can start to engage with that. But like, you don't have to just start pushing. So I hope that made sense. The second thing was that for me, all of the sensation was like really on the front lower part of my belly. So like right above my pubic bone. So right where my belly would kind of like attach and then drop down to my pubic bone. That's where a lot of my pressure was until I hit 10 centimeters and it was time to push, which, like I said, so I'm out on the bed, right? I'm out of the water. I'm on the bed. She's like, she did a cervix check. She's like, you're at 10 centimeters. I need you to rest for 15 minutes. And I was like, no way. Like this train has left the station. Like there's no slowing down. Like we got to get going. The sensation shifted from front to back. Like I was trying to poop. That's what it felt like. And I'm so glad that I like watched these different blogs that other people were describing that sensation to me, where it all of a sudden it feels like it's like that sensation of pushing. Like you're not trying to push or like go to the bathroom. It's like, or like you're not trying to pee, like you're trying to poop. And that's what I kept thinking. I was like, okay, now it's go time. And the really crazy thing is like you get to that point where your pelvis literally starts to separate and you can feel it. Like your baby goes into the birth canal, and yes, there's all this relaxation. Yes, your baby's been starting to stretch out, or like stretch your body out. Your hips are moving. But there's this point where it like literally separates and then comes back together. And that's about the first time I started feeling that, when she started going into the birth canal. I like clenched up and I was like, whoa. Because I was on the bed on all fours and I was like, oh my God, why didn't I get an epidural? I don't know if I can do this. Then fear started really kicking in for me, is when I felt that kind of like really crazy sensation in my body. So either way, we get back into the water. Like I'm saying, natural birth, let's go, baby. But I get back into the water. And I got back into the water, and immediately it's just like this huge relief of sensation. It just feels so relaxed and so held and so supported in a different way. And so I'm like kind of I'm leaning the same position where I was. And I have a birth vlog that's going to come out after this where you can actually see me in those positions. But I had like my elbows on the tub and I was on my knees and I was like, I feel so tired. And so I ended up laying on my back. So that position that I was like, I wasn't laying on my back with my feet in a stirrup. I was laying in the tub and my head was like on the back of it. And then I'm very long. So my feet were kind of like my feet were on like the ground and then, but my toes were like pushing up against the end of the tub. And that was really, actually, no, I think I was in like reclined butterfly pose. And then Cody was just like at the other end of the tub, like talking to me and reminding me to breathe. And then him and Juhi, like they got me a smoothie, they got me water, and they were just like reminding me to relax, but also to, like drink water. So by the time I got back in the tub, I think she was born within 30 minutes. So it went really fast. And I think it would have even gone faster, but I was scared. Like I started feeling those big waves of sensation and I started getting pretty freaked out. And so it would literally, it felt like she was coming down and everything was starting to stretch and open and I would get really freaked out and like kind of clamp down and she would come back up. And so we went through about 3 of those and I was like, number 1, freaked out. But then number 2, I was just getting more tired because I think the stress was also freaking me out. And so I had Cody call our doula, Lindsay. I'm going to have, I'll have her Instagram and things linked. So you guys, if anyone wants to reach out to her, like I can't recommend her enough, but I had Cody FaceTime Lindsay and he was like, I need you, like, what do? I feel so helpless. Well, I said, call Lindsay. I want to know if there's other positions to get in. And she was like, see if you can get in like a squat position, like a yoga squat position. And I was like, I can't support my body that way. And then I just remember her saying, the sensations are going to have to get bigger than you want them to get. Like for you to get the baby out, you have to let them get bigger than you actually want them to get. And I was like, okay. And then I just kept telling myself like, the only way out is through. The only way out is through. The only way out is through. Like I am working with my body. And Cody, I didn't hear him saying this, but he was talking to Lindsay and being like, I think he was texting her through the labor being like, what do? I feel so helpless. Like I can't help her. How can I be supportive? And she was telling him kind of like in between each contraction, it was like rest, relax, breathe, soften, surrender. And he was saying all these things that were so incredibly perfect. And I'll see maybe if I can get, maybe he'll remember what he was saying, but I could ask Lindsay because those mantras, like in those moments when I was so tired and feeling like I had to do everything, it was just a reminder that I didn't have to. And he kept being like, you don't have to push. Your body knows what it's doing. The only way out is through. And he was like repeating the mantras, but then also felt like a very like yoga teacher, like guiding me and coaching me. And so it was really special that way. So, yeah. And I mean, I think there were like 6, maybe 7, like really big, like I started feeling her come down. And then finally Lindsay's like, you gotta like, she's going to keep doing that. Like when you're ready, like start engaging with that and you can push with it. And yeah. And then all of a sudden, like there was one and then I felt like it was so close, but I didn't push hard enough or I didn't feel strong enough. Actually, the other thing that was happening is when the sensation was come, I was putting my head back and I was like, my sounds were getting higher pitched. And she goes, the next contraction, I want you to drop your chin and keep the sounds really like, oh, like really, really low. Keep them really low and connected to your pelvic floor. Like go down like first chakra energy, push it through it. And I started doing that. And then I like all of a sudden it's like my muscles turned on that I had kind of lost connection with. So my muscles started turning on in a different way. And then I just like pushed her out. And it was insane. And like, I got kind of halfway and I was like, fuck this. I'm not doing it again. Like, I mean, it did hurt, but it hurt, but it was more like such a different sensation that I'd ever felt. So I think it was like a little bit of fear, but, I just never felt it before. And I was like, I want to push through this. And so then I could feel my neck kind of leaning up and Cody's like, bear down. And I pushed down and I like really worked her out and she literally shot out of me. And Cody caught her. Cody caught the baby. And which is really important. I wanted him to be the first person to touch her. And caught the baby and laid her right on my chest. And she just like opened her eyes and looked right at me. And started crying like right away and like lifted her head up. And everyone's like, what? Like she did like a big arch. And then just laid her head down. And then, yeah, and then Cody was kind of like, he kind of like climbed over the tub. So he wasn't like in the tub, but I'm in it laying down. And then he kind of like came over the top of us. And I have this just like insanely magical photo of him over the tub. And it's just like us in this like little bubble. And that was the coolest moment of my life. So we recorded it, and when I went back and watched it, like obviously when I'm telling you the story, it was a really intense moment and it was a really intense process and everything was really big. But when I watched the video, like, yes, I'm making some big sounds, but the energy of the whole thing, like the energy of the birth process and the actual, like her coming out and like the doctors and our midwife and Juhi and Cody, like the whole process is so peaceful and it seems so calm. And I think that's what I'm like, one of the things that I'm most proud of is I just kept thinking about Lane in this situation. And like, I just wanted her to feel so calm and safe and just safe and loved. And so I didn't want it to be like a really intense and scary situation. And I think like some motherly superpower, I like tapped into that. And yeah, it just like, it clicked. Hi, baby. And then I had a baby and I'm laying in the water and it was incredible. I laid there for not that much longer, because then they're like, okay, like she's gonna get cold. You're cold. You need to get out of the water because like it's not like a hot tub. The tub starts getting cooler. So then and she's still connected to me at the time. So we decided to do delayed cord clamping so that all the blood, like a third of your baby's blood is in your placenta, which the placenta was like a whole thing in itself. That was like really incredible to see. So the placenta's still inside of me. She's attached to it. And so we decided to do delayed cord clamping. So if they don't do delayed cord clamping, they'll come in and you'll like cut and disconnect the baby right away. I wanted to wait until the cord, so like there's blood moving through it and transferring to the baby. I wanted to wait until all the blood had left my placenta and gone into her. And then your umbilical cord will turn like a white milky color. And so she's still attached to me when we're in the tub. And so they're like, okay, you got to get up. So getting up was like a thing. Like I'm so tired, but all of it, like I have this adrenaline and I'm so happy, but like my legs are still so exhausted and like you just got stretched out in this crazy way. So like your core, your pelvic floor that you used to stabilize, it's just like not the same sensation. So Cody like really helps me get up. I step out of the tub and then walk over and I like lie down on the bed and then they lay her right next to me. And then, well, she's on my chest at first and she's kind of like rooting around and she just immediately finds my nipple. Like, it's amazing. They just know what to do. Like, they're such little mammals. But she just, like, makes her way, like, right over to my nipple and latches, which was a crazy feeling. Oh, my gosh, the first latch. And so, for me, I felt, like, a lot more comfortable, like, sideline and nursing her. And so then we just, like, laid there and, like, dried her off and wrapped her up. And she was just, like, holding, like, literally kind of like this. And we're lying, except I'm lying on my side. And yeah, and then we just wait until all the blood drains out and the nurses were incredible. They just like gave us some space and like turned the lights down really low. And we just had our music going. And it was really peaceful. And so then they had Cody come over and cut the cord. And then I wanted to naturally birth my placenta, but my midwife, who I like trusted with my life at that point, and she was like, Emma, it's like right there. She's like, I just think like you can either stand up. And she's like, I just don't think you should stand up yet, but like it's right there. So like this is probably like 30 minutes after she's born. And so my midwife kind of like gently like pulled it out, which that was so crazy. Your placenta is like way bigger than I thought it was. I mean, it looks like a big pancake. It's like 10 inches in diameter. And then it's attached to the inside of your uterine wall, right? Like it attaches to that. And so like if this is your placenta and this is your uterine wall, like when it separates, like it's like, the way that people describe it is like after you give birth, you have like a dinner plate sized open wound inside of you, but the other part of that is your placenta. And so when it comes out and they lie it there and you're just seeing this like open organ, that was really, really incredible. Just that your body creates an organ out of your blood to support a baby. The female body is miraculous. Yeah, the placenta part was really shocked me. I was very much in awe of that. And so then I'm like laying there nursing baby. The placenta's laying right next to me. And I'm like, what a little trio here. 3 musketeers took that on. So they cut the umbilical cord, or Cody cut the umbilical cord. And then I ended up tearing. I tore 4 centimeters. No, not 4 centimeters. I had to get 4 stitches, not 4 centimeters. I don't know. No, but I had a grade 1 tear. So I had a grade 1 tear. They said it was like very minimal, but they did 4 stitches. So the doctor comes in. I'm laying on a king size bed. He's just sitting like crisscross applesauce. Gives me some local anesthesia, stitches me up, takes like 2 minutes. And then they asked if I wanted some pain medicine, and I said yes. Another thing I learned from social media, they were like, if somebody offers you, or they're like, take the something to help you, the laxative after you're done. And then also if there's pain medicine, like don't be shy about that. And so they came around and gave me like a big shot right in my butt. I am so grateful I did that. Because it really helped to just calm. There was a lot of sensation going on in my body. And I knew that once the adrenaline wore off, it would keep getting more intense. And so that really calmed it down. That helped a ton. And then I also had to, or that was the next morning, I had to get my RH shot. But yeah, and then Cody got to hold her for the first time and they did skin to skin. And he had, I'm sure, I mean, if you guys are watching birth vlogs, oming, like om, which is about the same sound that I was using when I was bearing down and pushing her out. Well, that's the sound that I was like trying to use. And that he started doing that to her. She was like kind of crying and he starts oming and she like just like tapped back into the physical sensation, or the vibrations. And she just fell asleep right on it. Like literally was just like, you know, they say that babies are so exhausted when they come out that it's hard for them to nurse and they just need to sleep. So she like falls asleep on Cody's chest, and then you want to wait for the baby to go to the bathroom to poop. And she just pooped right all over his chest. It was awesome. Oh my God. It was just like, and the reason I say awesome because, well, it was awesome because it's hilarious and so cute, but like the fact that she like screamed right away and latched right away and then went to the bathroom right away, even if it was on Cody, it's just like such a relief as a mother, and for Cody as a father, just like that she was doing these things and like we weren't like standing there waiting and watching and like, is everything okay? Like her body was responding and saying like, I'm okay. And that's the way that like her body will tell us that she's okay. And so it was just like such a relief. And yeah, and then, yeah, so, you know, we like went to sleep. She stayed in our room that night. Cody was the swaddle master, which we didn't end up swaddling for much longer. After we left the hospital, I'll tell, if you guys want to know all about that and like, well, I'll do a little debrief in like the days after because we learned so much. But yeah, and then we stayed in the hospital for like 3 days. We had incredible meals. The foods were incredible. And then we ended up just checking out and going home with our little family. And it was all just like so perfect and incredible. And it really felt like, even though I was in a hospital in South Korea, it felt as calm and peaceful to me as having a home birth, and like as close as it could. And I just feel so incredibly grateful and lucky and happy and really just grateful because being heard, like really being heard by your medical team is what I've come to find out is like that's really a rare experience. And to really be able to like dictate and do what you want, and that to have a voice with your doctors and to feel really safe speaking up, and like also to have a partner who is like really advocating for you. Yeah, this was really my dream birth. And so to our hospital staff, I just want to say thank you. You guys really made my dreams come true with that. And she is still so calm and so peaceful and just like such a happy little baby. And I feel like that is such a huge testament to our doctors and the team that we had around us, and especially to my wonderful baby daddy. And yeah, it was all really, really wonderful. So I have so much other information just kind of like floating around in my head, my heart, and my body, and just like things that we've learned since having her that we'll be sharing. So if you guys have any questions specifically, you can always just drop a comment. Obviously, having my first baby in a foreign country was a really, really wild experience, but it was incredible. Like the whole experience was truly incredible. And just like the way that we were cared for and the way that people, it was awesome. I feel so lucky and so grateful. So thank you so much for watching this. I really love that I got to tell this story, and that that we were vlogging the whole time during my pregnancy. And like of all the years to start our vlog, like starting it the year that we were going to get pregnant and have baby, I just feel so incredible, and I'm so grateful. And also, her name, I don't think I've actually said it in a vlog yet, but we named her Lane Alera Ponce, and it's after our mothers. So Lane, my mom's name is Jan Elaine Krager. And so my dad's always nicknamed her Lane, and he always calls her Laner, and I just loved that name. And then I also loved Laney as a nickname. And then Alera is Cody's mom's maiden name. It's Italian, very gorgeous. So Lane Alera Ponce. And that's our baby girl. So I just feel like it totally fits her. I still call her Rue all the time. She's Rue, Rooster, Rupert. Yeah, it's so fun to nickname your baby. She has like 100 nicknames. I feel like I come up with a new one every day. But yeah, right now little Lainey is just snuggled up on mommy back home in Nashville. So thank you everyone for being so incredibly supportive. Yeah, I love that we shared all this and that everyone was such an active part in this pregnancy. And so if you have any questions at all about birth or the pregnancy process, or even like this newborn life, I would love to answer all of your questions, because knowledge is power. And for me, that power turned into peace. And knowledge gave me this deep sense of peace. And I know how crazy it can feel to like go through that process. And so I just feel like I learned a lot, and I have a lot of wisdom to share on that. So I just like to offer that up. But thank you again for watching, and we love you. And I will see you in our next vlog, where you're actually gonna, see the whole labor process. So thank you guys for watching. We love you.